I'm Sarah Royce. I also go by Sam. I'm going to NIU for my doctorate in physical therapy. My PT interests are research, hospice therapy, animal-assisted therapy, and wound care. I have done one clinical in Kentucky. I'm going to Stanford University in the summer for 8 weeks for a clinical there. I do my research in LGBT effects and physical therapy services, as well as so sexual orientation, gender minority groups and their issues of physical therapy services, utilization, and successful outcomes. And I do advocacy work both as a straight ally at NIU, which means I'm available to questioning our LGBT youth who need to talk to somebody or are having other issues. And then I also do a lot of advocacy for NAMI, which is the Mental Illness Institute in America, because I actually have bipolar disorder, and I am trying to work on breaking the stigma with that.
Who can follow that, right?
I'll go. I'm Maria Perez, and I grew up in Woodstock. I went to Woodstock High School, graduated in 06. And then after that, I came to MCC for 2 years, and then I transferred to University of Illinois at Chicago. And then after I graduated there with my bachelor's in sociology, I started working full-time, and I found that I wasn't happy just working full-time. So I decided to go back to school to get my master's in social work. And currently, I had to do 2 internships. The first one I did at Turning Point in Woodstock, and then I'm currently in the process of doing my second internship at Woodstock North High School, because I want to be a school social worker. And so I'm looking at graduating in a couple months, so I'm very excited.
All right, I'll go. My name is Julie Haller. I grew up in Woodstock, Illinois. I also attended Woodstock High School. Janelle and I actually graduated together, so it's really cool to see somebody that I recognize. I am currently living in Cortland, Illinois, but I commute all over the Chicagoland area. I am a dance director at a performing arts school, and I also teach accredited college course at Harper College. I teach dance courses there as well. I'm obsessed with dance. I love dance. I attended MCC for a semester. It was a great transition for me to step into a 4-year university. I went to Point Park University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in dance performance. And so I'm here now.
I'm Janelle LeBroke. This is my second semester. I'm currently a student here at MCC. Last semester was the best semester I've ever had. I had straight A's, and I've never had that in my life. I'm still a little, I've got a little bit farther to go. It's the math classes that are kind of getting me right now. But I'm utilizing my education benefits through the Montgomery GI Bill and through the Illinois Veterans Grant, which offers complete and almost a bachelor's degree entirely to students who have been a resident of Illinois before their enlistment in the armed forces, and as long as you return to Illinois after your service, you can utilize the FHA. So that's currently what I'm doing right now, and I do plan to transfer for a fine arts degree eventually.
I'm Sabrina. I work at WTBO in Rockford. I graduated from Woodstock High School in 2007. I spent a semester here before I transferred to U of I down in Champaign, and I got an undergraduate degree, Bachelor of Science in Journalism, minor in Communications. And I found MCC to be very helpful with that transition and, lay a really good foundation for the work at U of I.
I'm Laura Gallagher. When I first started at MCC, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I found that I wanted to go engineering by being in the tutor center, giving help with math. And so I started at the lowest level of math, and I ended here at the highest level of math, and that's not something that happens very often. And so by talking to the tutors, I figured out that engineering was something that fit for me, because not only did I like math, but I also really liked art and designing and creating. And so after I transferred to NIU, I got a co-op at UTC Aerospace Systems. And so I had worked there for over a year, now, and when I was working at UTC, I got a job at Rolls-Royce, and they're both co-ops, and a co-op is a cooperative education program, and so it's an extended internship that goes on throughout the school year. So it's 2 semesters, a spring, a fall, and then also a summer. And so I've been able to experience 5 different engineering roles while still being a student. And right now I'm pursuing a degree in mechanical engineering.
Fantastic. And then, of course, students, as much as you want to chime in, you're more than welcome to. So, would any of you like to share a little bit more about your involvement here at MCC and how that has, and elaborate on how that has maybe laid a foundation for you? I know I heard you mentioned that it laid a foundation, but if any of you want to be more specific to that, about maybe encouraging some of these students to get involved, or what things that they can do to help.
I'll just start by saying I was really involved when I was here. I was on Student Senate. I was involved in so many organizations. We started a FEST, which is Future Engineers Scientist Society, which needs, is it active right now? No.
It's not, but they're trying to get going.
Okay, good. Okay, so if you like science, definitely work on getting that going more. But being involved in organizations is really good. I was also a student athlete. I was on the tennis team. And so being involved is important, especially when you transfer, because you will be transferring, because you are to your university or to your college. And so you need to be involved in organizations, because that's your biggest way to get connected and to meet other students. Because even if you live in a dorm, there are transfer houses in some places, but it's really hard to get into groups because people already have formed relationships, and you need to get into the organizations, because then you're doing something productive with your extra time, and you're meeting people that are interested in making the world a better place, which I'm sure you'd like to know that as well. So being involved here helps you transition into being involved in the 4-year university.
So I was really heavily involved here too. I was in Senate. I was in a million organizations, all that sort of thing. I think, between being in the organizations, working on Senate, I headed a couple of events that hadn't been done here at MCC before. That gave me a lot of experience in being a leader in projects, and it was helpful learning how to manage people who weren't doing what they needed to do, which I have found has been incredibly helpful at NIU and on my clinical rotations. And if you think about a medical career, it's really helpful trying to get your patients to do things that they don't want to do. And I think that just being in the organizations, being encouraged to do things I wouldn't have thought I could do, and the relationships I developed with some of my professors and some of the people in student life here has been incredibly helpful, and they've really encouraged me to do everything that I could do.
I was also really involved while I was here. I was also in Student Senate, and I was in Latinos Unidos. I don't know if that's still going on, but I was in that. And just like you, I found it really helpful, and I think that it's good practice while you're here to work in groups. And like I know for Student Senate, when I was here, we did a talent show, so it was working with everybody that got involved with that. And it's important for you to learn how to work in groups, because in most jobs you're going to be working in groups in some capacity. So it's good to get that experience here, and also not just to work with your peers, but also to work with other professionals and learn how to professionally interact with other people. So.
Okay, and I'm going to ask a question to the group here. How many of you plan to transfer to a 4-year in here? Okay. So then, for any of you up here, what advice would you give some of these students here as they're going to be embarking on the process of transferring to another institution? So maybe what's a lesson learned from you, or any just suggestions or advice you have?
I'd say ask a lot of questions. You can never be too prepared for transferring, because there's a lot of different in and outs, and by the time you figure out what MCC is about, you're going to have to figure out a completely new campus, completely new location, new area. So you want to be involved and get in and just jump right in as soon as possible, because it takes time to get used to a new place.
I would make sure that your classes, before you take them, check to see what they transfer as to where you want to go, even if it means looking up not just one school, but 5 schools, if that's how many are on your list, so that you're not going back once you get to that university and having to retake a bunch of courses. And maybe the school requires not just Comp 1, they need Comp 1 and Comp 2, and maybe an additional writing class. So knowing that before you take the class here at MCC and pay for it and invest all your time and energy.
I just think, just to add to that, take advantage of being at a community college. Really take advantage of taking as many different types of courses or being involved, like they were saying, in different groups and organizations, because that's the time where you can really find yourself. I graduated early from high school, and I came to MCC right away in the spring semester because I knew what I wanted to do, but I was ready. And so I think taking advantage of everything that MCC has to offer, even teaching over at Harper College, a lot of students come to me and they're like, wow, I didn't even know that I enjoyed dance or that there was even dance courses here. So I think like if you really open your eyes to see how many opportunities there are for you, it's going to help you that much more.
Even if you're transferring, try to utilize the services they have here, like working on interviewing skills and resume skills, both because it'll help you after your 4-year or after you finish your 4-year degree, but also like for a doctorate, my doctorate program, you had to do an interview to even get in. So I had got some help with interviewing skills from here, and that was really helpful. And I got in, so apparently it worked.
And it's all because of MCC.
It was only MCC.
I have to say that as a veteran, it's a little bit different with transferability and how many options you have for education benefits and how you can use those. You have to be completely aware and ask as many questions as you can with your VA representative in the city or VA representatives within the college, or if a guidance counselor may have advice for you about that, please ask them, how can I transfer? What form of education can I use? Can I use my MGIB toward furthering my education? What's transferring like for a veteran? Those questions are very important because you may not have the same availabilities here at a 2-year college as you do at a 4-year university for transfer, if that made any sense.
Yeah. Well, we have a veteran in the room too, so hopefully he's listening. So would you all say that your biggest challenge with the transfer was the credits transferring over, or do you have any other thoughts of what was your biggest challenge going from MCC then to your next world, university life?
Mine was credits because the NIU advisor, that contact the advisor here, just made up whatever they felt like. And I ended up having to take an additional 30 credits that I wasn't expecting at NIU before I could get my bachelor's. But I ended up with 3 bachelor's because I had to take extra credits.
Way to think positive. Yeah. Positive spin.
I think it was the atmosphere for me. Woodstock High School, it seemed so big at the time, but then when I actually went, from here, it was a good stepping stone for me to continue on to my 4-year university, which even though I went to a small private conservatory, it still was so big. I was in a completely different city. I went from, little Woodstock, Illinois to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is a big city, and so I think for me, it was the challenge of being in a completely different atmosphere and really stepping out of the comfort zone. So I think that was more the challenge for me.
And you, 2 of you who are working full-time right now, I believe, right? So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about kind of how you found your career and what it's like now that you're done with school and are in the professional world.
Well, I found my career because kind of like you, like when I graduated early, I knew kind of which path I wanted to go down. I'm sure for you it was dance. For me it was like journalism and communications. So MCC like started it, and then my next step, the 4-year, kind of propelled it, and then it's not easy to find a job in any field anymore, and so you really have to just keep going after it, even if one way doesn't work, find a different way, or if, I don't know, sometimes you have to rework your resume a lot, or, you have to network and stuff like that. I'm sure in all the fields it's the same way, even as a student, so,
Anyone else want to add? So you mentioned networking, so I want you to highlight that a little bit. So maybe you can all of you or a couple of you talk about how networks have benefited you, and maybe mentorships that you've had here at MCC or your other institutions, or mentors in your professions, just the importance of mentorship and networking.
Oh yeah, it's super duper important. It's not necessarily what you know, but who you know and how you talk to people. And I know like one thing that I found super important as a female engineer, there's not very many of us. And so when they, at roles, they put you with a mentor. You had a technical mentor and then you had a personal mentor. And so my personal mentor was male. And I didn't feel that that was best fitted for me. And so what I did was I went throughout the company and I got to know a lot of like female engineers that were in management positions, and I developed like a mentor panel or mentor board or whatever. And so I had about 5 women in this group that I would just go to with questions or advice if I needed it, because I like to get a bunch of different opinions and answers, because sometimes it takes that brainstorming of different answers and different ideas to kind of get what you really actually need out of something. And so having people to talk to and just a sounding board, sometimes just talking stuff out can help you a lot. And so it's important to have people that you can look up to and that have a great understanding and life experience that as a young person I don't have and that they have, and that if they're willing to share, I'm willing to listen. So definitely talk to people and learn as much as you can while you can.
I have to say that I haven't ever not gotten a job that I wanted. I've always gotten a job that I wanted, no matter what. And I think the biggest reason for that is your ability to communicate through your resume, your ability to be personable with people during your interview. You don't have to go all crazy wild and just like try to put yourself out there in a weird way. You just have to be firm and understanding and really listen to what your interview is saying to you or what the job is saying about you. But anything I've ever wanted to go for, I've always gotten. Always.
Well, and I just want to say that when I was here, I worked really closely with Sonia Rising, and she's amazing. And it was actually, and she was the one that was like, network. She's all about networking. And so when I work for senior services now part-time, and then 3 days a week I do my internship. And it's because of her that I got the job that I have now. Her sister works at senior services, and she let Sonia know that they had a position open. She knew I was looking for a job, so she let me know about it. I went and interviewed, and that's how I have my job. So. Network.
Could I ask, how have you dealt with the competition in the fields you're in? Because I know that it's a very difficult job market, and perhaps especially entering, at an entry level out of college. And how you dealt with that competition? What did you do that made you stand out to get the jobs that you're at?
There are no physical therapists. I'm fine.
I got to a point, I actually received my first job, which wasn't Rockford, through a professor at U of I, which I learned how to work with professors here at MCC. But I actually got in my car with my resume and drove all around the Midwest, and handed my resume and handed my tape to news directors, and was literally willing to, like, if you want me to just write scripts, I'll just write scripts. But that was how I was able to get my foot in the door. So you kind of have to have like perseverance, because it's all fields now. I mean, maybe not physical therapy, but are really cutthroat. And so, sometimes it takes getting in your car and just pounding the pavement and knocking on doors, not just calling or emailing your resume or stuff like that, or making that phone call. Who do you know? Who can help me? Who can look at my resume or my research work? Whatever you need, whatever you're trying to do.
I think being willing to take those stepping stones to get to your ultimate goal. I started out with a bunch of part-time. Like, I knew I had a passion for dance. I knew I wanted to teach dance, but I think there was so many things I wanted to do with it. So I started doing all these different. I made sure that my hands were in all kinds of different jobs, and taking those stepping stones to now get to where I'm at is, you definitely have to do that. You have to be willing to, this is my ultimate goal, but what is it going to take for me to get there? And be willing to take advantage of as many opportunities, like I said before, while you're at community college or even at your 4-year university. Take advantage of all that time, because all of that experience is going to help you for ultimately your final goal.
I think what helps, in my favor, I know that they're better in hiring preferences, so maybe gotten very, very lucky with that. But just because you're a veteran doesn't make you a hard worker. So what they looked at was like, oh, you've got some college. You got some college here? Okay, yeah, you want a job? Okay, we'll give you a job. You got some college. You in college now? Okay, well, we can work around your schedule and keep going to college, blah, blah, blah. They'll work with you if you communicate how much your education means to you with your job. But you just got to present that in the interview. You know, specifically say, yeah, I've got some college. It works. It works.
And I just have to, I'm bilingual, so if you're bilingual, like that is going to be your selling point. So, or if you have the chance to learn another language, absolutely do it, because that's what's going to set you apart, especially in, the diverse world. Even though it's just the Illinois seems so small, McHenry seems so small, Woodstock seems so small, but I mean, if you're bilingual, or you can learn another language, you need to do it.
And I heard a few of you mentioned kind of taking advantage of opportunities and involvement. So I'm thinking about community service. How many of you could have done something in the community that has maybe led to being able to get a position or giving you a skill set? Have any of you found benefit in community service types of activities like that? Sarah, you're nodding your head.
Oh, I do a lot of kind of community service activities, just in general. Being a straight ally at MAU has been really, really rewarding and has taught me a lot. I've had people call me at like 3 in the morning crying, and I don't know them, but I have to jump into that role and, talk them down and tell them how to get to some place that can help them and that sort of thing. So that's taught me a lot of how to work under pressure. I have volunteered at Mainstay Therapeutic Writing in Richmond, which is a physical therapy volunteer organization where they use hippotherapy, which is horses, because our horses gait exactly mimics a human's, and it helps if I twist when I do it, I guess. So we do a lot of work with people with cerebral palsy or people who have autism. So they do a lot of sensory work on the horses. That's been very valuable. I have done a lot of work with NAMI again on breaking the stigma of mental illness in America. I did St. Baldrick's, which was traumatic. My hair was like Tahirish, and I shaved my head, and apparently it stuck, so I kept it a little bit. But that even was kind of a volunteer thing, but that taught me a lot about myself, because it's really scary to shave your head if you're a female. Like, it's super scary.
But you rocked it.
But it was worth it. It taught me, I guess, to give something of myself for the benefit of others, which was pretty intense feeling. And I've kind of carried it with me, and I've increased my community service since then.
Anyone else want any benefit, or even internship opportunities? I think with side service, any things you'd like to share about taking advantage of internships?
Well, just having any type of leadership experience, whether it be on the job in an internship or a real full-time job, or volunteer work or anything on campus, being in organizations, it's going to show that you're willing to step up, take the initiative, and be proactive, and that's what they're looking for in the workforce. And so, honestly, anything that just sticks out and that you're dedicated, they're going to like that. And they're going to ask more about it, and that's good. That's a plus.
There was a study that came out recently that said employers are more interested in seeing what type of leadership activities and involvement opportunities that you have on your resume over what school you attended or your GPA. Would you agree with that? There? Anyone want to comment on? I think that's...
Yeah, actually, funny stories. I was at my first semester in a U. I was at a job fair, and they were looking at my resume, and I had a 4.0, and one person was like, oh, that's not good enough. And I know, he was being ridiculous, but basically the thing is that it doesn't matter what your GPA is. If you don't know how to work with people, you're not going to be good on the job. A lot of people get fired, especially in my field, for their personalities, not for their quality of work. You could be the smartest person in the entire world, but if you can't get along with people, you're going to make a very difficult work situation. You're going to reduce productivity, and your boss is not going to be very happy with you. So it's really about being personable.
And I have to ask, do you feel, and this is maybe a little bit closer to Amy's question too, but as women, do you feel like there's been any extra challenges in the job market or pursuing your education or opportunities? Have you felt you've overcome that or ever had to deal with that?
Okay, so as a female engineer, getting a job is not super difficult because there are not many of us, but on the job, it's more difficult because as a woman, you're not respected as much and you're often devalued. And it's like a woman, they're like, and guys say things, oh my gosh, that they should not say, even in the workplace. And it's just like, okay. I mean, you have to pick your battles. Is this worth addressing? Is this worth dealing with? You know, you gotta have priorities. But it's difficult as a woman engineer in the workforce, that's definitely true. But there's a lot of people that are accepting of it, and that's good, and I see a definite progression in it being integrated more and people being more accepted of it. And I'd say the more women engineers in the workforce, the better, because it's just like, we're here, so you better get used to us.
I had a little bit of a problem. There were a couple times when I filled out job applications without listing that I was a veteran, because I found that on a couple of interviews that I had, they didn't believe me. And I found that kind of odd. And they said specifically because of if I said, they asked me like what was my job in the Air Force and how could I apply that to the job now, and I told them that I was an MP or military police, and they said no. And I kind of, took a step back and realized, well, maybe if I just listed I had some college experience and that I wasn't in the Air Force, it still got me the job. But I thought I'm kind of lying. Usually when you have a job and you say you're a veteran, they want to see your DD-214, like that piece of paper that says you're not in anymore, but you were a part of it. Like, that's the proof. And I don't know how I felt about that entirely, because I thought, well, on one hand, I can still get the job without, but on the one hand, I can still get the job with. They just don't believe you. It's awkward. Really awkward.
In physical therapy, it's kind of like it's fairly close to 50-50 men and women. In my field, however, you have more of a problem with sexual harassment from patients and other healthcare providers. They don't seem to think, A, that you're as capable because, well, you can't lift me like a guy would be able to lift me, because we have to lift patients a lot, especially in the acute care setting. They don't believe that we're strong enough to do what the men do. But there's also the sexual harassment side where a lot of older male patients think it's appropriate to make sexual jokes. Especially when they're on a lot of drugs in the hospital. So you give them a little bit of leeway because they're not all there, but some of them are all there and they're still inappropriate, especially when you're doing like massage techniques or something like that. So I've only done clinical experiences and I've already been exposed to kind of that situation, and that's hard to deal with and it's super awkward. So I get the job, I just get sexually harassed, so. Win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Anyone else want to comment on that? Okay, well at this point I would like to see if anyone in the audience has any questions for any of them. And as you've heard, they all have very different experiences at different places where they've gone to pursue their education, different careers. Are any of you going into careers that they have stated?
No.
Well, any questions for them, or the panelists, or the committee members, if you have any other questions you'd like to add?
If there was anything you could go back and do during your time at MCC, would you have done anything differently?
That is a good question.
I would have chilled out more. I would have relaxed more. I've learned since I've been in the doctorate program that, like, even though it feels like you might die during an exam, or it feels like a project might actually physically kill you, it can't. I mean, it sounds silly, but, like, in the moment, it really feels like I might actually die if I don't do well on this test. They're laughing, but it's true. And so even, right, that's probably what I like. So, like, starting at MCC, actually, shout out to Susan Spinelli in physics. I had a lot of trouble with physics because it freaked me out because I never took it in high school. I skipped it to take AP, bio, and chem. So I had no experience, and I had to take a year of physics, and I was freaking out. And I spent all my time in the Sage Center just on this one class, and she was like it's not going to kill you, you're going to be fine. And she talked me down from the physics ledge, so to speak. And I actually still sometimes hit her up and I'm like, I have this physics problem and I need some assistance. So seriously, like, she taught me that you can't die from not doing perfect on an exam. It was hard to, coming even to MCC, it was hard to realize that I wasn't perfect, because in high school I kind of was a little bit. Well, but I didn't have to try, do you know what I mean? And then I got to school and it was like, you have to actually, well, but you have to actually try when you get to college. You're like, what is this? So I learned that I can't actually die from anything like that.
I wish I had a better understanding. I mean, this isn't my first community college. I've been to another one down in Bloomington, Illinois, which had a lot of resources, but not nearly as many clubs and goings on here. Like, if you go down on one of those days where it's just like crazy club day down in the cafeteria, it's kind of overwhelming, because you kind of want to be a part of the LGBT thing, and then you want to be a part of, like, ooh, what's this, like, Tornadoville or something? Like, I mean, they have so many options. But I really don't have as much of an understanding about being an active member, and I'm older, too, and a lot of the members are a lot younger, and I don't know if they would find that the value of somebody who's older. I have a feeling if I sat in one of those, I would just be really quiet and just listen or something, right?
There'd be a lot of value.
They're pretty accepting. I mean, I was an older student when I came back, and they're more accepting than you think, but it is really weird at first.
It's I don't know if I want to say it's intimidating. It's just, I think it's confusing. I think I lay into a couple people in the audience like a while back when they were having a pizza party and they were talking about increasing tuition for $4 for more activities, student activities. And I was like a crazy cat lady, just like, why would you increase tuition? Aren't you bribing them with pizza? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, as I'm walking away, like, what did I just say to? Oh my God. Like, and I felt like I didn't have a profound understanding of the world that is MCC or the club world. I'm still stuck in, like, I'm ornery and I'm older than you, and here's my problem. Like, I gotta stop that.
Yeah. So there's always great need for diversity in thought.
Right. There is. Absolutely.
What about the rest of you? Anything you would change or at your time?
I think I would have taken more advantage of what community college had to offer. I think I knew exactly where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, but I think that I could have even taken advantage of even more of what MCC had to offer at the time.
I would agree with that. Even though I was really involved, once I transferred to UIC, I commuted the 2 years I went down there, so it was really hard to get involved because it was like I had to get off the train, jump on the bus, get to class, like, do you know what I mean? Get out of class, wait for the bus, jump on the train, get home. And so I definitely missed that when I was at UIC because I didn't get involved. I couldn't get involved at all while I was at UIC because I was commuting. So I definitely missed that, kind of feeling of belonging that I felt when I was here because I was so involved. So if I would get more involved if I could redo my time at MCC.
And we have some employees in the crowd today. So is there anything, and Lucy, I will let you go. Is there anything that you would share with the employees about ways that, as employees, we can help you and help our current students as they transition out to careers into educational paths?
I think you're doing a great job. No, I think for just to even have something like this is really cool. You know, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and especially for you even to videotape it and to share it with other students that couldn't be here today. I think it's really cool for opportunity for students to really see that they're. Sometimes I think everybody gets stuck in their own little bubble and doesn't really realize what's outside the world, or what's beyond MCC. But I think if they actually see that there's students that are trying to still push and make it, and it's helpful. So
I think you guys are doing really well. Like, there are, if you asked me staff members and faculty that have had a major impact on my life, I mean, I can name them off the top of my head. Susan Blaine, Talia has been a huge inspiration to me. Steven Sokol helped me a lot. Justin Hoy. Like, these are all people who have challenged me in some way, taught me something, or were simply, you know, in the case of Talia, like, I didn't take a class with her, but she encouraged me to get even more involved than I was. And she was there for me at a time in my life when I really needed somebody just to be there and kind of, honestly, just to be there and listen to me freaking out. But, you know, even it's just things like that where I felt comfortable going to a staff member and saying, I'm having a hard time, I don't know how to handle this, I need help, and she directed me on where I could go to get help. So, staff's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with what Paul said, and you guys are awesome. And I believe that the students should definitely get to know you guys more, because I wish I did, because you can never really know someone enough. So, get to know one another.
Take advantage of the small class size. Take advantage of how personable the staff is here and the professors are here, because usually if you're going to be transferring, you're going to go to an NIU or a UIC, and it's going to be a much different atmosphere than MCC. So take advantage of the staff. They're good.
We have a couple audience questions. So, Luisa, you had a question?
No, I'm just so proud of seeing some of the students in here. But also, I want to throw out the question about, as a promoter of bilingualism, how I know some of you are bilingual, how that had helped you in your professions.
Are
you too? Tú hablas español.
It's very, very good because it helps you relate to people better. And so you find these little things, like maybe you're in this club, and so you can relate to this person that you're working with better. Or you did this for sure, and you volunteered here, you know, I mean, you helped with this, you speak another language. And so just by saying those little things and doing those little things, you make people feel better about themselves, and you can relate with them better and connect. So I'd say being bilingual is definitely a plus. So, and plus I learned a lot about cultural stuff that I didn't even know. So it's helped me as a person also.
I would have to definitely agree with what she's saying. In the social work field, I think it's a great asset for me to be not only bilingual but bicultural, just because you connect with clients on a totally different level. And I think I found that in doing social work at the school, the students kind of gravitate towards you because they know you understand their language, you understand their culture. So, I mean, it's a huge plus, and I would definitely say that being bilingual has opened doors for me. I know that I probably wouldn't have gotten my internship that I am now if I were not bilingual. So, if you can learn another language, you need to do it.
Please. I'm scared of learning English.
I know that at the previous community college I was at, I had taken 4 semesters or 2 semesters of Chinese, and specifically Mandarin Chinese. And the difference between college and a job is that you actually have to apply your bilingual skills to somebody not in the classroom. And you have to understand how to say something according to their culture, because they may not understand you. And it's through that experience, like I was a receptionist at the Grand Geneva Hotel, and they had a lot of individuals from China checking in. And when you're trying to ask them if they're allergic to feathers is extremely difficult. So the roundabout way you take in Chinese to get to allergic to feathers could go on for days. So I think it's important to be active. If MCC has a program that offers a native Spanish-speaking individual or something, or partner, to where you guys can have important dialect and all you do is speak Spanish, and maybe that person needs to speak English or something and learn that better. I think dialogue partners is essential because they have invaluable information for being bilingual.
And study abroad programs are great for that.
Heck yeah, they are. Absolutely.
Kathy, you had a question?
I do have a question, but before I ask my question, I just wanted to thank you. You guys are phenomenal. I really thank you for being here today and doing this. My question is, you know where you came from through MCC and where you are now, but what are your goals? Where do you see yourself in like 10 years from now?
Or 5.
Or 5.
Yeah, like later today.
Well, I definitely see myself getting old. That's going to happen if I wanted to or not. But I see myself as a full-time engineer working somewhere, doing something to help the world.
Canada, so I might be very cold in 10 years. But I'll probably be working, well, I'll be working as a physical therapist, I hope. I'll, probably in one of my interest areas like hospice therapy, or I'd really like to do animal assisted therapy. I think that's really important and not utilized enough right now. But I would practice for probably 10 years, then at the 10-year mark, I plan on moving to being a professor because I want to do that research, but I want to have a good chunk of time in the field before I start doing my own research. So in 10 years, I should be finishing my PhD in rehabilitative sciences and becoming a professor to do my own research.
So second PhD is what you're hoping for.
This one's a doctorate, but I would be a double doctor, and I would make people call me Doctor.
I would love to be a motivational speaker. I would love to be in front of people, just dance around on stage with like crazy presentations saying, "You're gonna be okay." Like, I would love to do that. But like, specifically for victims of sexual assault in the military, which is like huge in the news right now, but has always been a problem, I think needs to be out loud addressed and like make people feel like you really are going to be okay and things are going to get better for you and stuff. Like, just be jazzed about it and not so
Use
like,
a jazz.
well, this is serious, but
Yeah.
like, awesome. Make people feel good about it.
Well, we can have you come to MCC.
I would.
Yeah.
You stay
Start
down.
off at MCC.
Julie could be my backup.
There you go. Moving on to Julie, what about you? What are your goals?
Honestly, I just hope that I can continue to grow within the dance field. Already, I've been able to accomplish so much of my goal already, but I hope to continue to grow within the dance field and share my passion for dance. I've always had this want to open my own dance studio someday, so maybe that would be an outlet. I also really enjoy teaching college students, so maybe going more with that too, as well, and teaching at the university level. So I would have to go back to and get some more education with that as well. But any way for me to use all of the experience I've already had to continue to grow is ultimately my goal for the next 5 to 10 years.
I see myself working as a school social worker, and I think I would also like to. I think there's a huge need in our community for agencies that serve the Latino population. So I think that outside of my job as a school social worker, I think I would want to work towards maybe starting up a nonprofit that serves Latinos in our community. So.
The TV world works where you have to work your way up markets, and so one day I hope to anchor and host a show like Windy City Live in a city like Chicago or any big market city really, where I can impact people that are watching, but also I really want to get my master's degree and teach part-time because I've had such great teachers here and at University of Illinois. Unfortunately, in my field, the work experience is valued over taking that break for education. So I have to find a way to do it, after work. But that's one of my goals over the next 10 years is to make that happen.
Ashley, do you have a question?
If you could change your degree right now, what would it be? I know I would.
You still can. Okay.
There's always time to change your degree or to go back to school. I'm 26. I left academia for like 3 or 4 years before I came back, and then I changed. My associates is in tax accounting, and my bachelors are in neuropsychology, health and human sciences, and something else. This is awkward. I'll get back to you on the third one.
Okay.
And I'm getting my doctorate in physical therapy. So clearly you can change your mind. So don't let that limit you. Is my point to that. I don't remember your question now.
If you could change your degree, what would it be right now?
I would change it to an Associate of Arts. However, transferring, I know I would have to take a few more, maybe a couple semesters of a different foreign language. Because of what's offered here, doesn't mean they can transfer over that foreign language here if it's not offered, if that makes any sense.
So I was trying to get the Associate of Science because I only need 2 math classes for the Associate of Science to get my degree. But I've taken so many credits. I am like way above my credit limit to probably transfer. But I think the foreign language, the amount of time it would take the foreign language, as opposed to getting the math that I needed for the Associate of Science, just made sense for transferability. I think I could change it according to NIU. I could change it at any time I wanted and go for the Associate of Arts. But yeah, I don't, maybe Associate of Arts, but foreign language.
Any other questions?
I want to know if women actually get discriminated against, like in the workplace.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. I mean, we get paid less for quite a bit. I mean, how many studies come out? What is it, 11% still? Like for the exact same job?
78 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, 78 cents to the dollar. So you also have the whole. Women also have this. Going on a soapbox. We have this thing where if I, at the age of 26, I decide to work really hard on my career, then I'm a bad person because I don't have a child. If I have a child and I go to work, I'm a bad mommy because I'm working instead of taking care of my child. But if I stay at home with my child, I'm a terrible feminist because I'm not going and making my own money and doing my own thing. So you get caught in this catch-22 where people are going to judge you whether you, no matter what you do. I'm fine with people who want to stay home and have kids. I'm fine with people who want to work. I'm fine with people who want kids, who don't want kids. I don't care, but I get judged a lot. You know, I've been married forever now too, and it's when are you having kids? And it's like, could I finish my degree first? Maybe a little bit. So you get stuck in that. And you feel bad about yourself no matter what you choose. You do. To a certain extent, you feel bad because society makes you feel bad about it.
Yeah, Sarah is absolutely correct. And I know a lot of times that you'll get passed over because you're a woman. Even though you can do it faster, better, quicker than a guy, they'll just like look at you as female and they'll go right to the guy and pass them. And so it happens a lot, but you just have to prove yourself. And you can. And there's a lot of women that are moving up the scale in leadership positions in the work world. And so it's just a matter of time. And it already is happening, and so it's good to see.
I think because it's been going on for such a long time, discrimination against women in the workplace, women, my understanding, just kind of say that's the way it is. And they really shouldn't say that. Instead, there should be an established boundary that says enough. Like an outstretched arm, none of this, well, yeah, it's okay that you call me names. No, it's all right. It's okay that you say I'm not good enough. No, that's fine. I'm doing my work as fast as I can. I'm a secretary only. Okay, I get it. That's what I'm made for. Like, establishing a strong boundary, and if, like, the women unite as one, like, I think we'd all get a lot of respect. I think that it would happen better if, I'm not saying women are victims. I'm just saying, like, we should say it's enough, really, because everyone's just kind of going, that's the way it is. Women have babies. We lose time off the job. That's how it is. We should get paid less. I hope that's God. I'm sorry.
No, the reality of what you all face up there. Sue, you had a question? I think that might be our last question for some time. So,
unless a student has a question. If a student has a question, okay, I'll ask mine. I wanted to know how you've used the courses that were maybe outside your major, because I get this question from engineering students a lot. We tend to be kind of a little bit of a snobby bunch. We think that like our courses are the hardest courses, and those are the ones that we're going to use. And so, you know, if they have to take a philosophy course or a history course, they're like, you know, I just have to get through it or whatever. So, you know, no matter what your career is or what your major was, how did taking those courses that were maybe outside your major that you had to take for your degree, how have you been able to use them in your career or in your studies now?
I have to say that speech class is a dream. Everyone, like, you think it's going to be awful, you're going to puke and all these bad things about speech class and stuff, and I really didn't value, like, oh yeah, getting up there and speaking, you know, instead of just saying butterflies and whatever. I think it was essential in everything here at college. The way you present a project, the way you present a slide or show or something, or how you take a test even. I mean, it's all based on confidence. Like that speech class that everybody says, I don't need it. Like, really, you need it. It helps you. I think that's essential.
I think it's
helpful to expand your horizons. World religions was an interesting class that has nothing to do with my degree. I took marriage and family, and Justin Hoy was mean and challenged me a lot in it. And so he did. No, he really pushed me into places that I was uncomfortable being. Like, we had a debate that we had to do on gay marriage, and he put me on the anti-side because he knew that I was pro, and he wanted to make me uncomfortable. And you have to understand your enemy's argument if you're going to effectively argue against them, which I've carried with me. And then, like physics, I didn't think physics was relevant, so I was like, this is stupid, I don't need any of this, this is awful. But I learned what I'm capable of, because I didn't think I was capable of doing it. I really didn't. I wanted to quit, and I was like, I'm going to change my whole life plan because I can't deal with physics. And turns out it's super relevant, actually, but it didn't, at the time I didn't see it. So you kind of just got to do it. And you'll learn a lot about yourself, especially when you're kind of outside of your comfort zone.
My major obviously was so specific. I was specializing in dance particularly, but I think I can kind of add to it that within my field, because it's grown so much now, and you kind of think of it as an athlete, the more diverse you are, the better. And so specifically for me, the dance world has grown so much now that, like, in order to be a dancer, you have to be able to do anything now. It's not just, back when I was growing up, it was like you're either a ballerina or you're a modern dancer or you're a hip-hop dancer. But now, you're going to any type of auditions or calls, and they're asking for you to do pretty much anything and everything. So I think specifically within college, I made sure that I took other dance courses and other things that, being as well-rounded as possible. And so I think that, ultimately, just because you take one more course that might not be specific to your major, if it's going to help you grow and be more well-rounded, then it's worth it, the extra tuition money, or worth the, just for the experience, for you to be that much more well-rounded and grow.
Yeah, basically it adds diversity and helps you relate to other people. But like for me personally, it's made me appreciate my engineering classes. So I'm taking a painting class right now. It's really, really hard. And I love my engineering classes much more than my painting classes, so it's definitely helped me out there.
Well, thank you. If you can give them all a round of applause. Today our goal was just to share some of the shining stars that have graduated from MCC, and I think you all represented MCC so very well throughout your time here, and obviously now as you are blossoming into your career. So thank you all for spending the time with us today, and thank you everyone for showing up and engaging with us.